everybody, I'm Rick and you're watching The Skitty. Today's video, I am going to be rebuilding this Moto 8100 with a little 2 horsepower 79.5cc engine. I just wanted to show you guys what all it took to mount a motor in here, because after buying this thing from Go Power Sports, they have different motor plates and lots of different options for it, but with each plate comes its own problems. Now, one of the major problems that I was having is once you put the motor on their motor plate, you end up having to ditch the exhaust and the intake manifold and going with all sorts of performance options that I just wasn't interested in purchasing. So I found a simpler way to get the motor on here, and now that everything's been broken in, I've already taken it back apart. I got to change the oil on the motor and then get it ready to mount back in. So I'm going to show you everything that it takes to do that, show you the modifications that I made to the engine just to make it a little bit more friendly for the kids, and let's go ahead and get this started. So this is the motor that I chose. I chose it because it's c.a.r.b approved, which means I could order it and get it shipped here in California. And because it's small, a little lightweight, 2 horsepower motor. Basically, if you can see here, there's a little adapter plate that bolts onto the bottom of it, and it gives it the same mount-up pattern as like a Predator 212 would have. So to get this on here, I took this plate off. I positioned the motor plate where I wanted it, and I drilled 4 holes where this motor needed to go. Now I'll go ahead and give you a close-up on that. So without ordering any kind of special motor plate and all the accessories that you'd need to have to go with that, I put these 4 holes in using that base plate from the motor as a template, and that basically gave me close to the clearance that I would need, but there was still some issues clearing the air filter on that upright post right here, this piece of pipe. So I ended up having to shim the motor on the back, and that gave me just enough lip to basically clear everything. Now, in the process, if you were doing this without the little sheet metal motor bracket that this motor has on it right here, I probably wouldn't recommend it. This thing's gonna that little motor plate's gonna flex a little bit. It's made out of steel instead of the cast aluminum, so you don't have to worry about anything cracking in there. So just to show you what that looks like without having any spacers on it, let's get you set up again. Alright, so at first glance here, you can see where I decided to put the motor. It just won't quite get into position, and the problem is I'm hitting here. So I hope you guys can see that. My solution was basically to do that with the motor. Gives me just enough clearance to get everything over. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. Alright, so this is a 3/4 inch spacer I had laying around. I had 2 of them, so I'm going to go ahead and throw these underneath the back. There goes the clutch. And it gives me about that much clearance, which is about perfect. Of course, it's not going to stay there without some bolts on it. So let's go ahead and get this thing bolted down. Alright, so I've gone ahead and gotten the motor mounted in here. One thing I didn't mention earlier when I was going over the motor plate options from Go Power Sports is a lot of them actually required not only that the exhaust and air filter get swapped out, but you would also have to lose the gas tank too, because their motor spacer, it pushed it further up into here, and that eliminates the gas tank. So again, it was one more mod that I had to buy. But one thing that I did end up getting, I'm going to get that put on here now, is this little throttle adapter. I'll put a link in the description on it. Definitely makes life a lot easier trying to get the throttle cable hooked up. I also had to drill a little hole through the little throttle there to fish the throttle cable through. So I'm going to go ahead and get this hooked up. And already losing bolts here? How'd that even happen? in front of me. Alright, got that tight. Now let's give it a little test. Not the greatest running little motor, but I'm sure she'll get back to good. And now I need to wire up my kill switch. So this is pretty easy. Just disconnect the existing kill switch and hook this wire in and put this wire over here to ground. Hopefully you can still see that, I'm not in the way here. Alright, give her another whirl. Alright, kill switch works. So, now to do the clutch and chain. Before I get on to installing the clutch here, I got a little explaining to do. So this Jackshaft assembly, this whole plate and assembly here, came off of my Coleman CT200. I put it on there basically for the gear reduction. I've got a 20-tooth sprocket here and a 10-tooth sprocket here. So that, like I said, this is for kids that don't really know how to ride yet. That's going to slow this thing way down, make it easier for them to handle. In an effort to do that, the CT200 used 41 series chains. So I'm using a 41 series clutch, and that chain is going to go to this sprocket, and then the inside sprocket is actually a 35 chain sprocket. I did have to chuck that up on my lathe and bore it out because the jack shaft on the Coleman, I believe it's 16 or 17 millimeter. I never really measured it, I just kind of bored it out until it fit, but it was not 5/8 like these standard sprockets would be. So that did require a little modification to put this jack shaft plate on here, but it gives the motor a lot more power as far as being able to get around in the hills out here, and cuts the top speed down so that the kids are safe riding the thing. I've got this little spacer here for spacing the clutch off of the crankshaft. Apparently it doesn't seem to want to go back on. I probably need to go clean that up real quick. So I'm gonna go do that, and then it'll be time to fit the chains and tighten up the motor bolts as soon as I've got good chain alignment. Alright, chain's a little loose, but this thing does have a built-in chain tensioner on it, so we can go ahead and adjust that. Let's see if I've got the right size wrench. Nope. Alright, so the first chain's on. I did have to add a couple of links to this thing originally. So you'll actually see there's two master links, one here and one here. That's how much chain extension it needed from the chain that it came out with from Go Power Sports. So that should be close enough though. We'll see if I need to take a link out. I've got the adjuster pretty much maxed out at this point. Alright, so that's tightened back up. Now it's time to put this little link, this little chain on, and take it for a ride. Oh, I also had to cut the plastic back here a little bit just to get that to fit. Alright, just for a little size comparison, here's the CT200, the Mini Moto, Mega Moto Mini, and the Trailmaster Hurricane. Alright, let's go for a ride. Well, it is slow, but it's also fun. Should probably tighten up the handlebars, but thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hit that like, subscribe button, and leave me a comment if you want to see more with the mini bikes. Have a good one.